right, let's get the show on the road. Welcome everyone to how automation is changing the tower business. The tower business is experiencing a significant transformation with the emergence of AI, digital twins, and automated management of real estate and projects. Cloud-based software tools are facilitating faster and better decision-making, as well as more efficient collaboration with vendors and customers. This panel aims to examine how software is assisting tower operators in enhancing profitability by saving time. My name is John Coos. I'm a Senior Vice President at Butler America Telecom. I'm also a board member for the California Wireless Association and the host of the California Wireless Association podcast, and I always need guests. I don't know why I agreed to do an episode every 2 weeks for the last 2.5 years, so actually I expect all three of you to be future guests on my podcast. Sure. So I'd like to introduce our panel. Itay Karolek is the CRO of VHive, overseeing the global sales team. He is also a co-founder at Jether Energy and a board advisor to Nostromo Energy. Itay holds an MBA from Warwick and Duke Universities and served as a captain of a Dabur?
It's a gunboat, yeah.
A gunboat vessel after graduating from the Israeli Naval Academy. He enjoys water sports and is a proud father of 3. Charlie Kinnemer is the current Vice President of Telecom at SiteTracker. In this role, he supports the company's wireless and fiber wireline customers in implementing their deployment management solutions. With more than 20 years of experience in wireless E&O, PMO, and software, he has worked for various companies, including T-Mobile, TIM, Orange, Dish, Tillman Infrastructure, and Centerline Solutions. Charlie is also a co-founder of a software company that created project management systems and customer churn analytics for the wireless industry. And last but not least, with more than 7 years of experience at MRI Software, Sandy Hatchett holds the position of Senior Director. Her current focus is on leading the North American sales division of MRI AI, which is a contract intelligence platform that employs artificial intelligence to extract and manage data from legal documents. Sandy's expertise in sales and business development, along with her proficiency in client relationship management, constructing effective sales strategies and driving revenue growth, makes her an asset to the team. Additionally, her profound understanding of the real estate industry and dedication to providing outstanding customer service further enhance her value to MRI Software. Before we get to our questions, Itay wants to present a quick...
Yeah, I thought if nobody else is present, I just wanted to provide a quick visualization of what it is to have a digital twin, since we're going to talk about it. So I'm literally going to take a second of your time, or 2 minutes of your time, sorry, because I think a picture shows 1,000 words, and so let me just do that very briefly. Sorry, I had to minimize that. Oh, what did I do? You see, that's the thing about automation. If you don't know what you're doing, then is that, there it is. It should show now. No, we might have to skip that.
Duplicate.
Duplicate again. And
We should have AI do
I
this
think,
for
yeah,
us.
exactly. I think we're going to skip that. I apologize, and we can move forward. It was, of course, like in any demo, it was working perfectly a minute ago, right? And now even extend isn't working. I need to minimize this, so there we go. And here, oh.
Well, while we're fixing these technical difficulties, I'm no AI expert, but for some reason I get called upon to moderate panels regarding AI. And in fact, a week and a half ago at Wireless West, I did one. Some of you may have been there regarding software solutions on the A&E and testing and monitoring side of services. And boy, did that properly freak out half the audience that had any employment or involvement in A&E firms. So. I'm not sure.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Did you guys want to enhance anything I said about you guys in your introduction and your companies?
Yeah, so I'll just say a quick word. Hi again, my name is Itay. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for VHive. VHive is a digitization platform that enables large enterprises to digitize their infrastructure. And really what that means, what a digital twin is first of all a 3D representation of your infrastructure, but the more important part is the ability of that information to be transferred digitally into other systems, like my colleagues represent. And I think that's the most important part. Digital information should be able to easily be transferable from one system to the other for further automation. What we have is the nice part where you actually have a 3D model of your infrastructure, which unfortunately I wasn't able to show, but if anybody wants a demo, we'll do it another time.
Yeah, and how many people here have heard of SiteTracker or used it? Wow, most of you. That's good. Well, we started out in the wireless industry. We provide workflow and project management solutions for, as well as managing site inventory and assets. We're not just wireless anymore. You know, many of our customers have gone into other verticals similar to wireless, like charging stations, fiber, telecom, and they've kind of brought us with them because of our ability to make it very easy for them to manage their projects. You know, our key kind of tenets of our value proposition is around the ability to have one voice of truth. You know, you think about real-time, accurate data and visibility on projects. You know, if you don't have that visibility, you're not going to have, it's going to impact your margin as well as your cycle times, your ability to transact the cash. You look at one flexible system, you know, being able to configure, you know, keyword configure, not have to spend money on software development, but configure, manage and automate your workflows. And then one cloud platform that kind of provides that resiliency and extensibility, which makes it kind of future-proof, right? You're not having to worry about, you know, deprecation in your code, you know, 3 to 5 years down the road and having to worry about another technology change that could impact your business. You know, most of our customers, they come back to us with feedback on the benefits they see with the platform. On average, we're seeing feedback around 23% savings and efficiencies and up to 33% reduction in cycle times. We're now up to 250 customers globally across multiple verticals and over 70,000 users on our platform.
Sandy.
Yep, thank you. So today we're discussing automation, we're discussing strong tech stacks, what that means, how they all work together, how they all play together. But as we're going through this, I want to challenge all of you to think about one thing while we're talking about this. Do you have a good handle on the one source of truth data that comes from your contracts, your documents, and your leases that you actually need to be able to compare to everything else to bring that ROI and that value back to the business? And that's what we do at Contract Intelligence. We pull that data out of those leases, vendor agreements, contracts, documents, and then we're able to create the ability to share it with any other system because we are an open and connected business, as well as be able to create actionable items off of the data.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, in all truth, I used the free version of ChatGPT to help me create these questions, and if I'd paid for the full version, it might have been 100% there, but I had to tweak them a little bit. So I'll start with Itai. Can you share some examples of how vHive's platform has integrated with other systems and platforms to enable seamless data transfer and creation of uniform data, and how it has impacted the tower business?
Yeah, thank you, John. So yes, given that my colleague here from SiteTracker represents, I think, the asset management system, I'll give an example of a customer I can name. SBA Communication is our customer, and they have their own asset management system that was developed many years ago, and it was an internal one. As part of the digitization effort, again, if you have a 3D model and you have all the analytics of all the inventory on the tower, that's useless unless you transfer that information. So through our API, we've integrated with their system, and basically we're able to match what they think they have in the contracts, and Sandy will elaborate on that further, to what's actually on the tower. And that ability basically automates their inspection and allows them to go after much more revenue from the MNOs, because believe it or not, there's a lot of installed equipment that should not be there. Same thing with SiteTracker. We do have a mutual customer, I think a press release will be imminent, that has already integrated SiteTracker and has chosen vHive as their digital twin platform, and the same thing will happen. The all the workflows work through SiteTracker. But you were talking about single source of truth. When you scan a tower, you know exactly what's on the tower. Now my job is to pass on that information, match it with SiteTracker's information, and allow them to represent exactly what's on the tower. If now I want a visualization of it, I click on a link on SiteTracker, and it shows me the 3D model that vHive has. So we're integrated with SiteTracker and integrated with other asset management systems, and what allows, at the very basic, for towercos to understand their inventory for monetization, for MNOs to understand their inventory and how it's installed. Is it what they wanted to install, and is it installed properly? And that play with the current systems that are used for workflow, for different workflows, is what allows for greater automation between digital twins and current systems.
Did either of you want to elaborate on or follow up on that?
No, I think like when you think about SiteTracker's purpose, we're not driving kind of that what Itai is working on with being able to like surgically put AI into a solution that derives like, you know, assets from drawings, for instance, or imagery, right? But this foundation, you know, once you get that foundation right with a platform like SiteTracker, you can start looking for areas of process improvement where, you know, you get your processes and you identify areas where it's costing a lot of time or money. You can start to surgically replace manual effort with solutions like with what vHive's doing.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Charlie, let's follow up on this. So what challenges have you experienced at SiteTracker in terms of changes in these workflows, and what strategies have you implemented to ensure a smooth adoption for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, challenges, for anyone that's been in the business for 20 years, there's been, you know, leases, zoning, permitting, construction. Every company you work at, if you've been a services company before, every customer does it differently, even though it's quite similar in what actually gets produced. So we see challenges with standardization. You get certain customers that, based on their level, right, if you think about crawl, walk, and run with technology, you know, some will run faster based on sense of urgency, right? If the economics and they have very tight margins, they're going to look for ways to do things more efficiently. If they're operating in a case where their margins aren't as a concern, or, you know, they don't have an impact like a government deadline, they're not going to show as much interest in getting to that run stage. I find a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, a lot of segments within, you know, the wireless vertical, they're mostly at kind of that crawl to walk stage. They haven't really made it to run. And you know, primarily because of sense of urgency, as well as the need to kind of do things in their kind of nuances that they have. What I advocate for customers, though, as part of that strategy is when you start at crawl, like for us, it's getting that foundational process in place in our system. It's so driving standardized workflows. It's leveraging tools like our trackers and reports that, you know, most customers are already familiar with. You know, they've used that type of solution, just not in a kind of a cloud-based environment, a unified environment like ours. You start them there. When you start to move into the walk stage, you look at integrations in ways that you can start using the mobile app as a solution. So you start to look for ways to kind of refine that in terms of efficiencies. When you start to get to run, you're really starting to look at cycle times, defects, really process improvement, right? You start to look at a process improvement methodology on top of that foundation. And then that's where these kind of AI solutions come in place. That's where you find that rather than, you might tweak the process a bit and get, you know, less manual effort involved, you might have an opportunity to further automate it.
So when you mentioned that depending on the customer's, let's say their build plan, right?
Yeah.
So like we just got through roughly 3 years of a lot of mods. Prior to that, there was a lot of small cells.
Yeah.
And during those phases, the build plans for macros was like, in like LA, like 40 sites.
Yeah.
You know, when previously it might have been 800. So in that they're walking in that situation on purpose, and so
Yeah.
that's what you're referencing.
Yeah, when they've got thousands and thousands to do in a short period of time, or a services company that has tight margins,
Right.
you know, they start to look for ways to be more efficient. I'll give you a good example of this. When I was doing my churn analytics many years ago, we were looking at the models in the US and the wireless operators having ARPU in the 50s to 60s with, you know, 40 to 50% EBITDA margin. You start to go to emerging markets where the ARPU's $5 a month and the margins are much tighter. We're seeing that the analytical models to try and address churn were far more advanced because they had no choice.
And I think one of the things I do want to mention, you're correct. The large towers in the United States are mostly built, but I think all three organizations are international, and we see a completely. We have a very different product offering, even in Europe. I mean, one of our key customers and investors is Deutsche Telekom through their tower division, DFMG, and in Germany alone, they're planning on building 1,500 towers in the next. I think, I forget if it's 16 or 18 months. So and these are large towers, these are over 150 feet towers. So I think it really depends on geography, and us being a global company, that we have customers from Australia through all Latin America, United States, and even Africa. You do have to cater that solution and that, and also how you interact with the different software vendors depends on your geography.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I would like to mention too, right, so you're talking about crawl, walk, run. All of that it should be in that phased kind of approach, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but even in the crawl stage, even if the smallest of small and they're just trying to figure it out, you have to make sure that the data that you're comparing everything to is accurate and it's from the leases, right? It's from that documentation. If you have tower and they run the digital twins and they're running so fast and hard, but then they don't have the data to compare it to that's from the actual document, or they have data but they don't trust it. You spent all this time, money, and energy, and you're not showing the true ROI that the business should have based on that, because there's so much documentation and so much paper, digital paper, down in the lower Americas, probably actual paper. It needs to get somewhere. It needs to be consumable. It needs to be able to be shared across the platforms to make the tech stacks work together and be trusted. Because to go into automation and have your workforce buy in to all of these changes, the first time they go in there and the data's not right, they're gonna be like, okay, oh well, not doing it anymore. Cares.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. I think when I identify what the discrepancy is, I know currently the workflow is manual, where somebody says, okay, I got a few more antennas. What does the contract actually say? That's where I don't go into, and I think this is where the interplay comes. Okay, so you've identified a problem. I provide partial ROI, right? At least I know what information I have. Now it's a matter of managing and, in your case, the paperwork, right?
Yep.
You know, I noticed a theme when I was talking privately with you guys in our virtual green room a month ago, as well as my panelists from this other panel I mentioned, that for this all to be really efficient, the data has to have true integrity, right? So let me just ask you all three. It's like, do you now see that your clients are going to focus more on cataloging things correctly now so they can be more efficient in the future? And are they doing it?
Yes.
Have they turned the corner yet in making sure that closeout package from the GC is accurate?
So I think I'll give an example. On the digital twin side, one of the things that's important, for example, for a TowerCo is how accurate do I provide the information on the antenna tilt and azimuth, right? So accuracy comes in many, many ways, right? And from my perspective, accuracy is making sure the data I input into the asset management systems is accurate to to a centimeter or 2 centimeters, because then I can create a true comparison, and I can then roll out co-location and understand what I need to change. So yes, we've definitely seen changes from 4 or 5 years ago when VF just started, where nobody cared about it. Just let me know what's on the tower. I want to know exactly down to half an inch what's going on. So yeah, definitely those changes have happened, at least on the digital twin side. I don't know about the
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to risk and impact, right? I think a case where you're billing thousands and you have no choice but to get it right, there's scrutiny over the data, right? Especially if it's used for things like zero-touch provisioning, right? Where you need to integrate a lot of different data in order to build a cell tower, right? Cases where it's revenue assurance, right? And a tower company needs to look for ways to ensure that they're getting as much revenue and leasability as possible. I mean, one feedback from carriers is, hey, I like your portfolio, but do you really have space, right? And I think, or can you support the equipment we want to put on your tower? So I think it really depends on the risk and the opportunity and the ROI that a company is going to have, I think, which determines how much focus they put on data integrity. But I think the more important it is, the more likely a company is going to focus on it.
Yeah, and he mentions revenue assurance, and that's a lot of our major projects that we're doing right now in the space is revenue assurance. Going back, because they're all starting to walk and run, but they forgot about the crawl space, or they thought they had it handled, and now they're going back and they're doing the revenue assurance, and they're pulling all of the data out of the documents, comparing it, and there's a lot of ROI there, a lot. We've helped a good number of companies find. One of them, we found 300x ROI, which is a lot. But it was all straight revenue assurance projects.
Wow.
And I just want to say one thing. I think any of these systems matters not just for the tower cos. I don't want to emphasize just the tower cos. Revenue assurance is where we started with the tower cos, and our product developed in such a way, again, we're part of the accuracy, but the MNOs are a big piece of this, and we have to provide them. So their understanding of their inventory and how their assets operate are different, for RF planning and whatever. But you have to. In many cases, it's the same digital information, but used differently, and we have to be very conscious how different users and companies, and even users within the same company, are going to use that digital information.
All right. So Sandy, you mentioned the phased approach. So what benefits have you seen organizations achieve through a phased approach to the adoption of digital twins and digital information? And how does this approach help organizations overcome the challenges of digital transformation?
Yeah, I mean, digital transformation is tricky, right? It scares everybody, especially if you throw in 2 letters and you say AI. Everybody kind of freaks out, runs. Some people perk up and think it's amazing, and some people just kind of shut down and close their ears. But being able to get everybody on board, a phased approach, in my opinion, is best. That's usually what we recommend. There's reduced risk because you're going to be able to go in, you're going to do a small region or a small area. Usually we like to ask people, because of what we're doing, we ask what part of your portfolio, whether you're an MNO or a tower co, like what part of your portfolio do you not trust the most? Did you do a merger and you just took the data and shoved it in and you were like, okay, or did you do an acquisition or any of those things? And that's the one that we'll do first, because A, it creates best practices. We get buy-in from departments. You get your ROI immediately, so you can show your investors and your shareholders, look, this project is already successful. We've already done the ROI for this. It's amazing. Now we're going to roll it out, and we're going to see this much more savings. And when they say they're going to roll it out to the whole portfolio, they can actually give a true ROI versus me just being a salesperson and saying, here's my ROI calculator, this is what I think. We're able to take and use that and then multiply it across. As well as you just get buy-in. Being able to have one small group use it, love it, understand it, trust it, they then push it out to the rest of the business, and you're able to scale and move faster, and it's a much more crawl, walk, run, instead of having everybody get into a room and try to run, and they have no idea where they're going or what they're doing, and then they just get frustrated. So it's definitely a phased approach that I agree on, and you guys do a lot of phased approach, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think from our perspective, it was exactly, we had 2 types of customers. We had the customers that wanted M&A, and they said, turnkey, I have a deal to close of 4,000, this is an M&A deal that I can talk about, SBA in Tanzania. We need to close this by December 1st, and I want to know everything that's on the tower, and I need a turnkey solution, and I need it now. And then you're exactly right. That builds you a very loyal group within that organization that says, okay, I know how to use it, and now, okay, hey, operations, this is how you're going to use it. We did have the other approach also with where we had people say, I have a vision. I want everything digitized. And also, it usually starts with operations in the vision side. On the M&A side, say, okay, let's build a team of 20 users that are going to use this and exactly start building. And once you have that core of people that really trust you, it takes time. These are large enterprises that take a very long time. But yes, at some point that information starts to disseminate.
Early adopters,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Early
Correct.
adopters. But to your point about buy-in, if you take, most people don't want to go from here to here because they've got to trust that path, and that crawl is really getting them to adopt and accept something, slight change, and gradually go down the path of more and more change through time. And then eventually they see that thing they probably could have resulted in a lot of efficiency right away. You don't have the resistance.
Yep,
Right?
exactly.
You don't have the resistance.
Yeah, we have a major project running right now, and it's going well because it's done in regions. So we get one region, we do a go live, they train that whole region, that region's done, crossed off. And then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and each region goes faster and faster and faster and faster. The first region took forever, but now they're just boom, 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 because the buy-in's there. They
Yeah.
know what they're doing, the path is there. It's all set up.
And it's the trust you build. Once there's the
Yes.
trust, then they say, even if there's a hiccup halfway through, there's, all right, we've already gone through these hiccups. I trust you
Yeah.
to be able to solve this hiccup. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Sandy, I'm an old SIDAC guy, and but even not that long ago, my company would get an assignment. Let's say a tower company had purchased a portfolio or something, and we would like audit the files, audit the
Yes.
zoning and the leasing, and we would get giant boxes, throw them in the back of a truck, and think, if the truck got stolen, maybe the leases would be gone forever. Who knows? But
Probably.
and they've clearly been handled by a million people. Are your clients investing in the digitization of all these, or is there still ways to go?
Most people are getting them digitized because you have to, right? We can't do our part until
Right.
it's at least a PDF. Like, that has to happen. There's lots of business, if you're still there's lots of businesses out there. I know some that can connect you, but it has to be a digital. COVID was weird. I was on the phone with some clients, and they were like, well, the leases are in my desk at the office, and the office is
Closed.
shut down, and I can't go, and I'm not allowed to leave we're not allowed to go anywhere, but we have to run our business, and we're working, and I go, okay, when this is all done, we have to talk. Like, when you're allowed back in your office and you can scan this, no more, it's okay to be manual. Like,
Yeah.
people have to move to the digital age. We got a really weird wake-up call that it's,
You could put on a
Yeah, I
yellow.
was
You could
involved.
put on a yellow hazmat suit and gone and got it
I
or
mean-
something. But
is it really worth it for real?
yeah.
Well, in some
I
cases,
was-
Especially in the early days. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I was involved in SIDAC during kind of COVID, and it's amazing how fast the company I was at, we went to DocuSign,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
And really, I'd say 9 out of 10 leases was DocuSign based versus going to someone's door and getting something physically signed. It almost forced, like COVID forced companies to go digital with
Yes.
certain aspects of their process.
Yep, absolutely. We have many clients that put us as the last signature on last place, not the signature, but the last place that it goes after the DocuSign, so that it immediately hits us, and it's already being OCR'd, abstracted, and read through the AI.
And interestingly, again, a different environment in the COVID space, but the thing that helped us during COVID was you couldn't send a crew of 2 people because you had needed 6 feet of separation. And in our case, the digital twin is created by 1 person on the site. And so suddenly, all right, I need to do an inspection. I may as well do this inspection, even if I can't climb, because I need 2 people to climb. And unless it's an emergency, and I'm only going to know if it's an emergency if I now have my digital twin. So yeah,
Yeah.
a very different perspective, but the same. I'm stuck. Give me something digital. Yeah.
COVID certainly did accelerate things. Went from taking 18 sets of drawings to a city to filing online. And,
Yep.
So to all of you, in what ways have digital twins and digital data accelerated automation in the tower business? And what impact has this had on the industry as a whole?
I'll start. I think interestingly, it's a little bit more on the asset management and site tracker side, but what I see is how it accelerates workflows. I think ultimately automation is there. What we say about the data capture itself, the drone, I think is an analogy. We say we just want to provide a tool to extend to field operations so they don't have to climb, they can digitize something with an easy automated tool. And I think, but it's a workflow thing, right? There's an expert in the field and they have to do it. And then there's an expert in front of a screen saying, okay, I used to have 2D PDFs and look at different files. Now I have a digital twin platform that connects to my asset management system and hopefully can draw as well all the lease information. Now my workflow changed. So what we enable is to really shorten the workflows and have people do their job a lot better, a lot more accurate, in our case also safer because they don't have to climb. So I think more than anything, it is accelerating their workflows and to some extent changing how their workflows are operating. But I don't know, you're more of the workflow
Yeah.
experts than we are.
I mean, I would say mobile app, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot more being collected on a mobile device than there was 10 years ago, right?
Yep, for sure.
And I think that's resulting in more use cases like closeout packages, right?
Right.
There are a ton of companies like us that are in the closeout package space and really trying to leverage. Some are leveraging AI to try and, like with what you guys do and being able to transact metadata from imagery. They're trying to evaluate photos to understand if it's been installed correctly, right? So we're seeing more of that, but it's still, I would say, it's more just fundamental workflow, except mobile, and trying to make it more intuitive on a device. I think that's one area where I think the industry can benefit from is UX when it comes to mobile and how we build our software around the user versus the user having to work around the software. I think there's definitely opportunity in most applications for that to be improved, but I've just noticed that a lot more is happening via mobile going into
for sure.
our system than 10 years ago.
Absolutely. I was instructed to make sure I mention your names because this is recorded only on audio, so thank you, Charlie. Sandy, you have anything to add on that?
No, I'm good. The only major thing that I've noticed is a lot of just everybody wanting everything to be open, right? So everything can communicate and talk to each other and really be able to interact and allow people to just see everything and not have these closed systems that can't talk to each other and function in silos, and that's not what you want with a tech stack. You want everything to function together.
Especially on reporting,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Yes.
Power BI, Tableau, those pretty much dominate
Yep.
reporting and analytics. Probably see a lot more Power BI these days, and it's imperative these systems are able to get data
Yep.
in, and also even some customers, it gets back to sense of urgency. You're seeing Kafka more. You're seeing a lot more streaming of data, right? It's no longer, I want my data in a batch at the end of the day. I want data real time, so
Yep.
I can make real time informed decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of our major initiatives this year that are coming very soon that I'm so beyond excited about is Power BI will be embedded in ours. We also have our own data lake that's using Power BI to connect everything, and it's an open data lake. So if somebody doesn't happen to have their own, they need a little help, plug and play. And then we're building a little bit of ChatGPT in our platform as well for very, very specific scenarios. You're not going to be able to get on there and just ask it anything, but it needs some guardrails in the beginning. But yeah, we're putting that in there, and that's pretty exciting. So I think it's an interesting future that we have in the next couple of years.
Yeah. I would just caution, and because we've played around with ChatGPT as well, but the issue is that information is now public. And so we also use it very, very, very limited applications because it's there's a whole IP issue and stuff like that. again, brave new world. I wonder
new
how
world.
it will. I wonder how it will pan out. But there's a lot to be resolved before you could really use some of these
Well,
tools.
Yeah.
It's
I
also
agree.
not entirely accurate. I mean,
Yeah, that's. I'm not even getting into that. I'm just saying it.
for those of you who don't know, I have probably 20,000 DC comic books, and I asked it some simple questions about Superman, and it got them wrong. It's just basic stuff. But so you got to be really aware
Yeah.
what it does or how it spits out data.
I think that's in general with AI. It's AI needs to understand context, right? And I think that's a lot of us. So everyone's worried about, well, is this going to replace the site acquisition specialist, right? The reality is there's a lot of experience from context, and you know, a good AI model's got a lot of data points to base something off to train it, and then it needs to test that against, you know, a larger data set and make informed context-based decisions. And you know, I think that's going to be a risk. You just got to be forewarned that as you step into AI, you really need to understand it. Can it address context or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a great point. So everybody, when we talk about AI, they get very nervous, but what we offer our clients is an assisted, right? So we have humans on the back end, double checking, making sure, teaching, it's not just a pure software, it's an AI,
With context, supervised.
yes, yeah, powered managed service, I guess you would probably call it.
Yeah.
And then on our ChatGPT, it's actually not using their data set. We're using the construct of how it works with our lease data that we've gathered from all of the leases that we've abstracted. So it's not actually functioning off of the data that's on the internet from 2021, like ChatGPT. It's functioning off of our data sets that we've pulled. But now we have to train it, so that's why we can only do a very small segment of questioning, because it's going to take us a minute to train it, this question, and then a minute to train this question off of the data that we have.
So I do want to leave some time for questions, but I do think this is a good time just to ask one more formal question, which is about where's this going? Like, you know, if we're at the ground floor now, where do you guys, you know, where do you guys see it going? All these applications, all the integration among the applications, and how it affects the tower business. I mean, if you had to like be a Ray Bradbury science fiction writer and looking 40 years in the future, or 20, or 10.
I don't know that there'll be a tower business 40 years. No, I'm joking. I can't see that far, but I can definitely say, I think within 5 years, what you'll see is that all workflows will be completely digital. And so, for example, I know we've started integrating some of the information from IoT. I know you do that as well, and how decisions will be much quicker. It will be much easier to share information. So, for example, we create a portal in which both the TowerCo, the MNO, and the construction vendor can all share that information. And I think that's the greatest power of digital information, that you can share it easily, and everybody can make an informed decision based on exactly the same data set. And if you're not sure, you're not sure, then you can all agree, yes, this is the correct data set. You're all seeing the same information, and it's not a folder or a file somewhere. I think, to me, that's the most powerful thing, and the integration of systems will lead towards that.
I mean, I see some workflows will go zero touch, some will go low touch, right?
Yeah.
And low touch would be, you know, having someone that actually has to look at a lease because you're not necessarily able to get everything out of it, or a QA check, like a QA check that does require a set of eyes. Zero touch could be a process where you've got enough data, even rule set based analytics, to determine that, you know, the risk factor of having the system make a decision is far less than the benefit you get in time or in costs in having the system make the decision. But I think we'll see a lot more low touch
Okay.
over the next 10 years from process.
Sandy?
Workflow.
And then, I agree with everything they just said. I think the biggest thing that I see coming in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years is, we've all been talking about data, and data is king for the last 3 or 4 years, and we have all this data, and I want all this data, and I need all this data, and what are we gonna do with all this data? My boss needs this data, the C-levels need this data, the board needs this data. But I think we're actually going to come to the point where we can use the data we can action on the data, we can visualize the data, we can share it. Like, it's going to actually be what we've all been talking about, hoping and wishing and dreaming it would be. It's now, it's happening. It's finally starting to move into that direction.
The future is now.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to ask a question, please come up. So I'll pretend to be the first one, because I've, my leasing background or so I used to say, after people would say, how could you do, working on so many cell sites over the years? Aren't they all the same? And I would say something like, well, every landlord's different, every jurisdiction's different, so it's not as simple, but if you have enough data, you can start to draw conclusions that not everybody is different. The behaviors are, if you have enough, as long as you have enough data. So maybe you could expound upon that.
So it's the way we like to explain it, and think about it this way. We always, no matter what the documents look like, how the lawyer worded it, whatever happened, right? They're all gonna be different. That's how we can help. If all of your contracts are the same, we can help. It's a different solution. But if they're all different, that's how we really help. Because you wanna ask the same questions no matter what the contract reads, right? You still wanna ask the same questions to get that data set. So then what we're doing is we're just feeding the answers in. We feed all the answers in, the human reviewers double check it, say, yes, that's right, no, this is the way it should be. And then it's just collecting the iterations of how to answer that question, and then it can then make conclusions. And
Okay. I didn't see anybody lining up, but I know people must have some questions. We got about 4 minutes left. Don't be shy. Someone, please. I'll call on you if I know your name. I'm going to call on you, Jim. Ask a question. Come on. You're an A&E guy. Are you sure? Anybody? Anybody?
Hello, John.
How you doing?
Sandy,
yes,
with the process that you go through, is there automation in reading the PDFs, or is that still a manual effort?
yes, so it runs through, so,
What's the term about, whatever, 30 leases?
yep.
Let's determine what's the end date. You find that automatically, or does the body still have to pull it out and mark it down?
So it runs through OCR. We OCR the whole PDF, turn it into machine readable text. It then goes through the AI. The AI asks its questions. It tries to find the answer, and it will, if it doesn't find the answer, it'll put NA. If it finds what it thinks is the answer, it'll put it in the box, and then the human reviewers will go back through and double check it. We actually use F1 scores to make sure that the AI is continuously learning, and so that we get a good gauge on where is the low-hanging fruit? Where is the accuracy scores of 70, 80, 90%, which is mostly dates, dollars, things like that. And then on your more complex clauses, then the F1 scores are, they're lower. They're around 30, 40, 50, 60%. And then, but by the time it gets to our clients, it's all accurate because we use the human review. Because if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to teach it and get it to move forward. And we want to make sure we have the same pool. Now, the Tower Co leases that we actually do for an M&O in South Africa, because their leases are a little bit, they're not as complex as the ones in North America. The AI is actually trained to read those at like between 60 and 80% accuracy, because those ones are a little bit more simpler. Here in North America, we like to get a little crazy with the legal language, so they're more along the lines of a commercial real estate lease. But in that manner, we're MRI Software. We're one of the 2 largest commercial management software companies globally, and we have access to all of these clients, and we've run well over 500,000 commercial real estate leases as well. So between the 2 learnings, it's getting pretty proficient, but we still will, I don't see a time that I am still doing this where there's not some portion of human review. Like, you just have to. It just has to happen. You have to be able to say, no, that's not right. Otherwise, you have to have a lot of data cleansers, which is the same thing. You're just doing it afterwards.
You're not dealing with billions of leases, you're dealing with hundreds of thousands, and
Yes.
it just comes down to the amount of samples you have.
Yep. I mean, I think even if billions, the lawyers are just gonna write it different.
Yeah, that's a good
They're
point.
just gonna write it different, right? Like,
Hopefully, we didn't offend anyone here.
Well, ChatGPT would write
Chat's
it
gonna
different
write
each time, too.
and it writes it different every single time, too.
Yeah.
If you ask it the
Yeah.
same question,
Yeah.
it'll write it different every time.
That's true.
Was to make sure my kids don't get caught for cheating.
Oh, I don't know what we're gonna do with that.
Yep. Anyone else? I think we've come to, I have a lot more questions on the leasing side, but I'm gonna have to corner you later, because that's fascinating. Actually, I'll ask one quick one. And this gets into the dangers of AI. If you get a search ring and you're approaching landlords, is this a fair statement, that based on publicly available data about people, individuals, like maybe their property history, their mortgage history, their default history, could you have AI suggest how to approach a landlord based on their public profile? Maybe we should just leave it there, because it gets into the ethics issues, right?
I don't wanna sell that software.
Fair enough.
That's
All
not
right.
a software I wanna sell.
Well, thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.